Once upon a time, the two beautiful Iberian countries of Spain and Portugal were playing a very fun game called Colonialism. A wonderful game where they would go around the world and conquer land that they discovered. Likewise, in the year of our Lord 1498, a guy called Christopher Columbus, an expert on discovering things, discovered South America. This was delightful news for both countries, as they had previously agreed that any land found in the Western Hemisphere actually belonged to them. That's what the Pope said, no permission needed from any Western Hemispherians. You can imagine the surprise of the South American indigenous people, who had their afternoon human sacrifice interrupted by ships full of white boys, who brought guns, diseases and sperm with them, ready to convert everyone in this land to Christianity, and borrow all the natural resources they could find. Over the next few centuries, unfortunately for our Iberian friends, they were starting to fall off. After getting railed by Napoleon, they officially lost the colonialism game. In the early 18th century, right after the Napoleonic Wars, independent countries free of colonial power were being created in South America, led by the Libertadores. Behold, 12 independent countries, who despite being quite fond of wars and dictatorships in their early days, nowadays comprise arguably the most peaceful continent in the world. Is what I would say if these Latinos stopped having internal conflicts. You're supposed to fight each other, not yourselves. Also, last time I checked, Venezuela is a full-fledged dictatorship. Let me tell you something, guys. When your economy is collapsing because of corruption, sanctions, too much dependence on oil, gross economic and political mismanagement, what you don't do is tell your banks to start printing a shit ton of money. Printing more money doesn't make you richer, it actually makes you poorer, because the money that you already have is less valuable, making prices go up, which means you can buy even less stuff. GDP goes, and inflation goes. Wow, what a sad state of affairs. From being one of the most prosperous South American countries to not even being able to buy the most basic food items because your currency is less valuable than Clash of Clans gems. Things are better now, slightly better. I mean, from the bottom you can only go up. Or in the case of Venezuelans, you can only go to Colombia. Which brings us to Colombia, the very first country in South America to gain independence. In the beginning, it was bigger, you see, as it also contained Ecuador, Panama and Venezuela. There are many incredibly famous Colombians that you probably have heard before, like Pablo Escobar, a man that was so rich he used to burn money to keep his family warm. You could have just used a couple of branches, buddy, I think it's cheaper. Or that other Escobar that scored an own goal at the World Cup of '94. Something happened to him later, but I can't seem to recall. What I do recall though is that Colombia was quite violent in the 90s. Actually, it still is. I think you can guess why. Don't do drugs, kids. Oh, we reached the equator. Get it? Because Ecuador means equator in Spanish. Okay. The smallest of the Gran Colombia siblings with very similar flags has quite a few interesting stuff to show us. For starters, since the Earth bulges at the equator, Mount Chimborazo could technically be considered the tallest mountain in the world.
There is also a massive bulge in Ecuadorian people's pants and mouth, post-production out.
From the 2000s onwards, the main currency has been the US dollar. The country experienced hyperinflation. Where have I heard that before? The Galapagos Islands, where Charles Darwin wrote his theory of evolution, belong to Ecuador. Ah, very interesting. Now what else? Let me check my script. Oh, did I mention that Ecuador is in the equator? Yes! Ah, Peru, lovely Peru. There are three things that come to mind when thinking about Peru. The Pope, llamas, and the Inca civilization. Do any of you guys remember the Emperor's New Groove? Well, that was in Peru. Cusco, that's a city in Peru, very closely located to Machu Picchu. Wow, I'm gasping in complete awe. Unlike in Bolivia, where you gasp because of the lack of air. A country notorious for its high altitude, La Paz is the highest capital city in the world. It also likely houses the most high citizens in the world, who love chewing on coca leaves. Don't do drugs, kids. And don't forget to breathe air. Otherwise, you will be transformed into a Bolivian. They are short, wear silly hats, have a lot of indigenous DNA, and are saltier than their salt lakes and flats, as a consequence of Chile making their country landlocked. Imagine losing a war to this country. Its whole thing is that it's long. Very, very long. It also looks like a Chile, and it gets chilly in Patagonia, where penguins live. Okay, in hindsight, Chile's shape actually makes quite a lot of sense. The country is completely surrounded by the Andes mountain range, and mountains have always been an easy way to indicate borders. Andes. And these nuts can fit in an Argentinian's mouth. Haha. Argentina, named after the Latin word for silver. They are 11th in silver production. Its capital is Buenos Aires, literally good air. It checks out, I guess.
Are you sure about that?
Argentinians are often seen as the snobs of the Latin American world, who think they're better than everybody else, especially Brazil, with whom they have a dick measuring contest. I mean, the superiority complex is in their DNA. Unlike most people in the Latin American world who are mixed to some degree, Argentinians are mostly Caucasian and do consider themselves as such. Around half of the total population has Italian ancestry.
Detén lo que estás haciendo. Oye, ven acá. ¿Qué puedo hacer hoy?
And yes, I know what you're wondering. There are a couple of Germans here, but most of them came before the thing. It's also in their DNA to claim land that's not theirs. I'm sorry, Argentinians, but just because a couple of rocks are close to you does not mean they belong to you. You know what I'm talking about. The Falklands, South Sandwich, South Georgia Islands. Unfortunately, the British came here first, so they have a better claim than you guys. If you disagree with me, you are free to argue about it in the comment section. I won't read your comments anyway. Moving on to Uruguay. This country is basically Argentina but smaller. They are quite European, love their football, love their meat. If Argentina is Mario, then Uruguay is Luigi. Even their flags both have this derpy sun. Something cool about Uruguay is that near the border with Brazil, they got this dialect called Portuñol. It's a mix between Spanish and Portuguese, which I found very cool. Paraguay. Damn, there's some Luigi Waluigi shit going on here, huh? Not much to say about Paraguay. I mean, it's landlocked. It used to be much bigger, but then it got into a war and lost like half of its territory. One unique thing about this country is that they're bilingual. They speak Spanish and Guarani, which is an indigenous language, spoken by up to 90% of the population. In more rural places, this is even the main language of communication. Some don't even speak Spanish. You know who else doesn't speak Spanish? Brazil! Portuguese legacy, biggest economy in South America, biggest population in South America, biggest area in South America, 5-time world champion, most diverse country in the continent. They got all the colors, the best carnivals in the whole world, forest burnings, thickest women to ever exist, incredible views, incredible news, autosclerosis music, police brutality, food atrocities. You guys, we are so lucky that they speak caralho and not English. No, I am not going to Brazil. Go. I'll be back in a bit. Just give me a moment to wrap this up. Alright guys, before I get dragged back to hell for good, we need to briefly talk about Guyana, or the Guianas. What the fuck is a Guyana? That's a girl's name. I should know. She never responded to my messages. Well guys, you see, the Guianas is this area around the north of South America, comprised of two regions that belong to Venezuela and Brazil respectively, two countries, and one overseas department. So we got 2.5 countries to talk about. French Guyana, Suriname, and Guyana. Former colonies of France, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom, respectively. I'm getting a bit of deja vu here. These DLC countries do not really fit in with the rest of the continent. They are a bit different. Probably something to do with their former colonizers, their demographic makeup, or the fact that this area is a sparsely populated jungle with very few roads, limiting interaction with other countries. From left to right, French Guyana. This is literally France. Like, literally France. It's as France as Marseille, which doesn't say a lot, but yeah. This means that French Guyana, despite being in South America, is in the European Union and uses euros as their official currency. The European Space Agency has its spaceport here, and in the past, French Guyana used to be France's Australia, as they used to send their most dangerous criminals here. Suriname, former Dutch colony, they speak Dutch, the smallest country in South America, also a hidden football powerhouse, as a lot of former and current football players of Surinamese descent have played in the Dutch national team. Lastly, Guyana, former British colony. They speak English, probably. Apparently the fastest growing economy in the world. They got a border dispute with Venezuela. Venezuela says all the land west of this river is ours. Their reasoning is some colonial bullshit. Recently tensions have escalated because oil reserves were found here. I guess they never learn. Which brings us back to Venezuela, the start of this video. Thanks for watching and goodbye.